Yeah. So let's talk about your UFO encounters. How many have you had?
Several, probably 5 or 6 with other witnesses.
Right. Well, the one I wanted to talk about is the one that almost cost you your life.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
can you take us through what happened?
it was with my sister, and I was working in Washington, D.C. For the DIA, and my sister was uh, attending Drew University for postgraduate work. And so we were both on the east side of the country, and we decided to go up and see the East Coast and New England states, have a vacation. And so I drove from Washington, D.C. to New Jersey, which is practically in New York, and picked her up. And we headed toward Boston, where we were planning to stay all night. And we got there early. And so we decided to just look around some before we did anything else. And so we drove up on Route 3 into New Hampshire. And after we thought it was getting dark, we turned around and came back. It turned out we actually drove through part of the area where the Betty and Barney Hill sighting had been, which is sort of interesting.
That's the Bridgewater Triangle area.
I found that out just recently, that was a bridge. I didn't know anything about it
Wow.
until this year when somebody told me. But we came back, and we were just on vacation. The last thing our minds were UFOs. And so we came back and drove into Boston, and we couldn't find a motel. Everything was full. And so we decided to look around the outer belt. And so we were leaving Boston. And as we left, we kept seeing this thing south of us that looked like it was kind of following the freeway. It was just a light, and it was blinking. But there was an airport also around there, the Norwood Memorial Airport, and we could see airplanes coming in from the east and turning on their landing lights and landing, and we could see regular airplanes. Well, this was lower than the airplanes. And the airplanes, of course, had red and green lights and everything. And this was just one white light that was blinking. And my sister kept saying, "This is weird." And then she started saying, might be a UFO. And I thought she just flipped. I was busy looking for the motel. And so we drove around and argued about it. And it was pretty evident, and we both, noticed it, but I thought, well, it couldn't be a UFO. And I told her it was a helicopter blinking its landing lights, even though I'd never seen anything like that. And we argued. And we weren't finding a motel, and so I continued driving and got on Route 95, which is a main east, north-south route on the East Coast. And we continued to argue. And I was driving along, there was a woods. And in the woods, there was a round object. It looked like a sphere. It seemed to have a light inside of it. It was going through a spectrum of like all the shades of red and all the shades of blue. And I just couldn't figure out what on earth that was. And then the inside of our car lit up in green. And I was just totally mystified on what on earth is going on. And I looked at the object because I thought it must be shining a light. But I couldn't see any green anywhere except inside our car. And this was 1968, which was basically before lasers. So I didn't think of laser or anything like that back then. And so, I was just totally confused, but I kept on driving, and we kept right on arguing. And so after a while, my sister started screaming at me. It was going to go right over the car. And so I pointed at it, and I was going to say, "See, dingbat, it's a helicopter," where I thought it was going to appear. And then I saw a meteor way off, and then this thing came over the road. And I realized my sister was right and I was wrong. She said that right when we first saw it, that it shone a light in the car, and it was sort of like a bluish light. but I didn't see that, but I was looking out the window, so I probably didn't see it. And anyway, it was this big thing, and it had 7 square windows, and they were blinking in a particular pattern, like the first 3 would blink, all 7 would blink, and the last 4 would blink. And it was just this pattern the whole time. And so I had been taking pictures with a sort of box camera, but I also had a Polaroid with high-speed film in it. For back then, it was 3000 ASA film, which wasn't loaded in my camera. And so the thing was just real close, and we could really see the windows, and it had 2 little lights on either side, like a red light and a green light that weren't blinking, but they were real dim. And so I found my camera in the dark and my film in the dark and was loading the film. And it was just a wonderful picture. I mean, I thought, I could prove UFOs exist with that thing. And a truck driver drove in front of us and stopped. And just when I had my camera loaded and he was right in front of us, well, this truck driver started talking to me. He was standing right beside me. And he said, "What are you looking at?" And I couldn't understand what he meant, because there was this thing right up there in front of us.
Yep.
And so I pointed, and he turned around in the opposite direction and said, "I don't see anything." And then he just rotated around toward me and looked at me again. He was standing right beside me, and I was scared to take the picture with him there. And then he asked me again, "What are you looking at?" And I pointed again. And then he rotated around and said, "I don't see anything." He pointed his head just in exactly the opposite direction of where we were looking. And
didn't your sister confirm what you were seeing?
She remembered the truck driver, and she remembered he didn't see it, but she didn't seem to remember talking to him. And I don't understand that either. But
wow.
She was paying a whole lot of attention to the object, and she might have just not paid attention, because I remember she said she remembered he didn't see it, but she didn't know why she knew he didn't see it. And then he went back to his truck and just watched us. And I climbed a hill, because it was on a freeway, and I was afraid I'd get high-speed film, and I was afraid I'd get lens reflections or something. I climbed a hill, and the hill was bald. And I took pictures, and they turned out pretty weird. But anyway, then I came back down, and the thing was circling an airport. The airport we'd been watching, it was doing this real strange circle where it would go so fast you couldn't see it, and then it'd blink twice, and then blink its lights on and go so fast you couldn't see it. It just kept circling that way. And we saw the planes, and they were up above it, and we both were commenting on, the planes aren't landing now, they're up above it, they must be watching it or something. We definitely both saw that. And so and I could hear noises, and it sounded like a jet or something, or maybe a sonic boom, but like I thought maybe they're scrambling jets from the airport, but there weren't any jets, I found out later. And so anyway, I didn't know where the thing would go next. And my car was pointing south, and I decided to turn around at the next intersection and go north. And so I pulled out, and the truck driver just immediately pulled right in behind me, right on my bumper. And I couldn't figure out what he was doing, but I knew he was kind of crazy. And so anyway, I tried to get rid of him, and I changed lanes several times, and I speeded up and slowed down, and he just stayed right on my bumper. And he was beaming his lights in my mirror, and I was blinded. I couldn't see anything. And I was just driving down the freeway, and finally I just floored it and went as fast as the car would go, because I thought he's a trunky. He might take him a while to get up to speed, but it didn't. And he stayed right on my bumper. And so I thought he was going to kill us or something. I had no idea what was going to happen. And I finally decided what I'd do is go on the left-hand side of the road. And as soon as I saw another interchange, I would swerve off. And that was real dangerous, because somebody was coming up on the right-hand side. We would have, there would have been an accident. And so anyway, and my sister couldn't see behind us either. But I don't think she knew how much danger we were in either. And so I did it and got rid of the truck driver.
Wow. But it didn't end there, did it? You had some
No.
strange things happen after that.
Yeah. We went back and it stopped circling around the time we got back, and it started going northwest, and we followed it until we got on this real, beat up road that was like a trail with gravel and holes and everything, and houses a long ways apart. And we couldn't keep up with it. It was just a little bit faster than I could drive on that kind of road. And so I turned around and went, and also that thing, the round thing that was changing color, it was still there when we went back north toward Boston, and the car lit up in green again. But when I came back the third time, we didn't see it. And then we went back to her dorm because we couldn't find a place. I think they were all closed. It must have been late. And we got back, and Bud Hopkins had asked if there was missing time. And like, I don't know. We didn't remember an abduction or anything like that, but there might have been missing time because it seemed like we got back there a little bit later than we should have. And so anyway, then I went back to, we went to sleep, and I started back to Washington, D.C. When I got back there, I had a poltergeist experience too, which was totally weird.
Yeah. I mean, was the truck driver, was he human?
I have no idea. Everybody asked me that. I mean, he looked perfectly normal. He didn't even have an accent to me. He was in Boston, maybe he should have had a Boston accent. He just looked perfectly normal, but he sure didn't act normal.
Right. Now, what was your experience where you had a phone call and it was your voice on the other end of it? Was that tied in with this particular incident?
No.